The Democratic and Republican parties have not always held the same political ideologies they do today. In fact, their views have completely flipped over time. When these parties were first founded, their platforms were opposite of what they represent now. Republicans were seen as the party of progress and reform, while Democrats were more closely associated with tradition and conservatism. So, how did this transformation happen? The change did not happen overnight, however. Instead, it was a slow set of changes and policies that caused the Great Switch. At the outbreak of the Civil War, Republicans controlled the majority of northern states. They pushed for westward expansion, built the Transcontinental Railroad, and, most importantly, many Republicans were abolitionists, fighting to end slavery for good. Democrats represented a range of views, but shared a commitment to Thomas Jefferson's concept of an agrarian, farming society. They viewed the central government as the enemy of individual liberty. Because most Democrats were in southern states, they fought to keep slavery legal. When Civil War ended, the Republican-led government passed important Reconstruction amendments that abolished slavery and granted African Americans citizenship and voting rights. This won them the loyalty of most black voters. Unsurprisingly, most Democrats disapproved of these measures. Soon after, wealthy northern industrialists took control of the Republican Party. They had grown rich from the war, and their politics prioritized business interests over civil rights, believing they had done enough for African Americans. These new wealthy politicians did not see much sense in supporting their rights anymore when the nation was still largely white. At the same time, the South, left to Democrats, implemented oppressive policies towards black citizens, and for the next 44 years, the South became a Democratic stronghold, voting just for Democratic presidential candidates. Fast forward to the Great Depression of 1929. The Republican Party, now controlled by business elites, favoured a hands-off approach to the economy. This worked in good times, but in a crisis, it was a disaster. Republican President Herbert Hoover refused to intervene as millions lost their jobs, homes, and life savings. The public turned to a new leader, Franklin D. Roosevelt, a Democrat who promised direct government action. FDR campaigned on a promise of government intervention, financial assistance, and concern for the welfare of the people. He won the 1932 election by a landslide. It was his campaign policies that caused a major shift in party ideologies. Republicans opposed everything about FDR's government. Primarily, they saw the growth of large government as harmful to the federalist foundation of the nation. This, too, has come to define the ideals of the Republican Party. By the 1950s and 60s, race and equality were at the forefront of American politics. At first, it wasn't strictly a party issue, it was a regional divide. Many Southern Democrats and Republicans opposed the civil rights movement, while Northern politicians from both parties supported change. However, by 1964, the flip had begun to take effect. President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Democrat, signed the Civil Rights Act into law. His Republican opponent, Barry Goldwater, opposed it, not because he supported segregation, but because he feared it gave too much power to the federal government. For black voters, this was a breaking point. They had historically supported Republicans since Lincoln's time, but after Goldwater's opposition to civil rights, the majority of black voters switched to the Democratic Party. They saw the Democrats as advocates for equality and justice, while the Republicans were too concerned with keeping the status quo in America. Meanwhile, many white Southern Democrats felt the Democratic Party had gone too far left, advocating for racial and social reforms. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, these Southern Democrats began switching to the Republican Party, aligning with leaders like Ronald Reagan, who advocated for small government, conservative values, and free market economics. By the 1980s, the transformation was complete. The Republican Party had become the party of conservatism, while the Democratic Party had embraced liberal ideals, a political realignment that shaped the America we know today.